Fantastic Beasts is the clearest proof you can own the Wizarding World and still completely miss that what made it special, right? That's what annoys me about this franchise so much. And with the new Lego Harry Potter sets coming out, it hit me once again how much people still want this world. People still want Hogwarts, they still want Diagon Alley, the spells, the creatures, the weird shops, strange teachers, old corridors, that feeling that there is a hidden world sitting behind our normal one. That appetite is still there for a lot of people. The love is still there. For me, definitely. The problem I think was never that people were done with magic. People weren't done with Hogwarts or Harry Potter in general. The problem was that Fantastic Beasts somehow took that world and made it feel extremely cold and gray and dead, soulless, really. And that should be pretty hard to pull off. It's actually amazing that that is what they did. The setup was almost impossible to screw up. The movie is called Fantastic Beasts. You have Newt Scamander, a weird, awkward gentleman who understands magical creatures better than he does people. You have a suitcase full of impossible animals. You have a whole world outside of Britain to explore. You have the chance to show what magic looks like in other countries or cities, other cultures, with creatures that Harry never saw and rules that Hogwarts never taught us. That is the franchise that is sitting right there in front of them. But they didn't do any of that. And that is the first major mistake, I think. They sold us magical creatures and then slowly turned the creatures into background decoration, really. Newt should have been the center of these movies, of this franchise. His bond with these animals should have been the emotional engine. The wonder should have come from him discovering these strange creatures and the hidden magical places around them. Instead, the series keeps dragging him into a much bigger Dumbledore and Grindelwald prequel story, and he starts to feel like he walked into the wrong movie, really. It's so strange. Newt did not feel as a character. The franchise felt him. He works when the story is smaller and stranger, warmer and more personal. We do get glimpses of that. But he doesn't work as the center of some huge political wizard war full with speeches, secret bloodlines, dark family reveals, all of that. That is not what makes him interesting. He's not Harry. He's not some grand mythic hero. He's not the chosen one. He's just a guy who likes magical creatures. That's the whole charm. And the movie should have leaned into that instead of burying him underneath the lore. And I think the second mistake is the American Wizarding World. That should have been incredible. This was the chance to show how magic evolved outside the British school system. Different laws, different magical history, folklore, creatures, different slang and fears, and all of that. America has so much mythology and weirdness to pull from, and the movie could have made that feel rich and strange. But instead, so much of it feels bland and bureaucratic, and nothing exposes that better than the word no mage. I fucking hate no mage. I genuinely hate it. Muggle? It works because it sounds like it belongs in the wizarding world. It's weird, it's memorable, slightly childish, old fashioned, and very British. It has flavor. No mage, it sounds like someone took no magic, chopped it in half, and decided that that was good enough. It has no charm, no imagination. It does not feel like the word grew from something naturally. It feels lazy, and that is exactly the problem. America in this franchise should feel like a whole new magical civilization. Instead, too much of it feels like the British wizarding world got copied, flattened, and renamed. And then we have Credence. Also, big mistake. I know the wizarding world can be dark. That's not the issue, that's not the problem. Harry Potter gets dark, like really dark. There's death and abuse and corruption, torture, war. We get it all. But the darkness worked because it was attacking a world we already learned to love. Hogwarts felt warm because it became dangerous. No, not because it became dangerous. Before it became dangerous, of course. And the friendships mattered before the war started. The small magical details made the world worth protecting. Fantastic Beasts skips so much of that and goes straight into the misery. The Credence storyline is so heavy and joyless and completely out of place for what this franchise should have been. We get abuse, repressed magic, identity twists, secret bloodlines, Dumbledore family drama. It feels like the movies are trying to force depth by making everything more miserable. But misery isn't depth. A sad backstory isn't interesting per se. A secret identity is not automatically powerful. The more the Credence storyline takes over, the less the franchise feels like a magical, whimsical adventure and more like a dark prequel that nobody asked for. At least I didn't. And another mistake I think they made is that the franchise confused more lore with more story. This is where a lot of modern franchises lose their minds, really. They think that adding names and connections and bloodlines and twists and mythology makes the world richer. It doesn't. It can, but only if there is a strong emotional reason for it. In Fantastic Beasts, it often feels like information replacing that whole feeling, I think. And the movies keep adding more detail, but those details do not make the world warmer or stranger or more alive for that matter. They only make it heavier for no reason. This franchise should have been whimsical and colorful, you know? Fantastic, fantastic beasts. That's what we wanted to see. And that's also not why people fell in love with Harry Potter. People did not fall in love with that world because, we wanted a family tree explained across three great looking films. No. We all fell in love with the moments, a letter arriving, a wand choosing a wizard, a hidden alley opening, a train platform that shouldn't exist, a school feast, a common room, a shop full of strange things. The world felt magical because the little things had life to it. Fantastic Beasts it just keeps trying to go bigger, but it forgets that the magic was often in the small details. And that brings me to David Yates, because this is the part that makes the whole thing so much more frustrating. He directed the final four Harry Potter films. He was not new to this world. He knew Harry Potter, he knew this world, he knew the tone, he knew how dark it could get, but he also knew how much warmth it needed around all of that darkness. So at some point, someone like him should have looked at these movies and said, no, this is moving away from what people came here for. No, Newt cannot become the side character in his own franchise. No, the beasts cannot become, background decorations. No. No, the American wizarding world cannot feel this uninspired. No, Credence cannot swallow the entire story. No, we do not need another bloodline twist. No to no mage. That's not good enough. Someone should have protected the magic. Someone should have protected the feeling, but nobody did. Somebody should have just said no. Too much. That is why I feel these movies are so strange. They have, well, I would say all of the ingredients. They have the wands, the creatures, the spells, the names, the big stakes, and all of the effects. We have Dumbledore and Grindelwald, and we have a connection to one of the most beloved fictional worlds ever created. But they do not have the thing underneath. They do not have the warmth. They do not have the wonder. They do not have the heart. And yes, there are pieces that work, sure. Newt could have worked. Jacob had some warmth. Queenie had charm. Some of the characters are fun-ish. The creatures mostly are fun. Dumbledore and Grindelwald could have carried a separate, darker story if it had been, the actual focus from the start, I would say. But pieces are not enough when the franchise itself has no spine at all. One minute it wants to be about Newt and beasts, then it wants to be about Credence, then it wants to be about Dumbledore, then it wants to be about Grindelwald, and then it wants to be about wizard politics. It just keeps changing the goalposts. That's just weird. You shouldn't do that. And that is the reason Fantastic Beasts failed for me. It kept choosing the least magical version of every idea possible. They really did. Magical creatures became less important, Newt became less central, America felt less imaginative than it should have been, darkness became misery, lore replaced wonder, bloodlines replaced emotion, and the wizarding world just got bigger on paper, but on screen, I couldn't feel it, I couldn't see it. And that's pretty sad, really, because this franchise should have worked. It should have been so easy, just printing money. It shouldn't. It should not have been perfect. It probably wouldn't have been perfect. That's not the point. It didn't need to be huge. It didn't need to be some massive end of the world saga. But it did need to be magical. That was the one thing that it had to be. Give us a strange man, some strange creatures, strange places, and a world that feels like it still has a lot of secrets. But instead, Fantastic Beasts gave us a wizarding world that felt tired before it even got going. And that is the most frustrating part. The magic did not disappear because people stopped wanting it. The magic disappeared because the movies forgot where to look for it.